Hi, everybody. So, today we are doing a special episode of our Best and Worst, this new series that we've been doing. This is our third episode where we are talking about an actor and giving our best and worst of their films. And we're trying to encourage you to check out our longer episode of our podcast, Hidden Gems, which also drops today. So, you should check it out. And today we are talking about Jim Carrey, who has made waves this week by playing Joe Biden and on Saturday Night Live, and I didn't love his performance. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll see how he does in further episodes. But yeah, Jim Carrey. Ryan, what do you think about Mr. Jim Carrey?
I feel like I feel like Vito Corleone in the morgue when he's like, "Look at how they massacred my boy," because I am a massive Jim Carrey fan, and to see the crap that he did on SNL, it was just
It was
I feel like I have to explain him like an urban legend to all of our younger viewers out there. Like, kids, once upon a time in the mid '90s, there was a man named Jim, and he was actually funny. Like
yeah.
in 1993, he was starred in three comedies: Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and they were all awesome. And he was somehow the funniest man in
I mean,
America.
and in fairness, if they had given him anything funny to do, I think his impression was perfectly fine. But it was the writing that I think really let it down. I mean, I just couldn't believe that out of that in that just nightmare of a debate that was the best they could come up with was him flailing about on the stage. What? Like, are you kidding me? It was it was really bad. But anyway, yeah, it's pretty bad. But let's talk about our best and worst of Jim Carrey as far as films. Because he's definitely at his highs and his lows. And so for me, I think the best Jim Carrey performance, best Jim Carrey movie for me, really love Liar Liar. That's definitely up there for me. But I have to go with The Truman Show. I love this movie. I love his performance in the movie. I think his sort of exaggerated expressions, I think, work so well as he's like becoming increasingly sort of unglued. But you're still rooting for him the whole time. I love the whole idea of Truman coming to realize that he's in the cave, and metaphorically speaking, in the philosopher's cave that Plato talks about, and him coming out of it. And you're just, with the end, you're like, yes, you did it.
Yeah, Truman Show is excellent. It was directed by Peter Weir, a very underrated director. And I think The Truman Show accidentally kind of predicted our obsession with reality television,
Yeah.
because the whole conceit of The Truman Show, the show within the movie itself, is watching some guy just live his normal everyday life. And he doesn't have one bit of clue what's going on. He has an idea. Like, throughout the entire movie, they portray him as a guy who's like, something's wrong here, but I know nothing else, so I might as well just continue on the path that I'm on.
So what's your best of Jim Carrey?
So my best of Jim Carrey is actually Liar Liar. It's one of my favorite comedies, and the premise is essentially Jim Carrey plays a lawyer named Fletcher Reed, who for 24 hours cannot lie. Now, we all know the stigma around lawyers, and so a lawyer who cannot lie, the comedy just writes itself. But what I love about this performance is that Jim Carrey brings a humanity to the whole thing. Like, around this time, fathers were kind of portrayed as like these workaholics who had no time, and just, they
Yeah.
were like, I'm sure, Rachel, you know what I mean, but
Sure, like like in Mary Poppins, kind of that sort of workaholic dad.
exactly. But in Liar Liar, there's a scene where he freely admits that he's a bad father, and this was like after the liar curse went into effect, when he's just like, he just straight up says, "Listen to me, I'm a bad father," and he takes a second to be like, "Wait a minute, did I just say that?" And his ex-wife was like, "You're not a bad father, you're just never there," and you feel like the 300 pounds just drop right on his shoulders, like the weight of all of the lies that he tells, not just to his son and to his ex-wife, but to literally everybody. And not to mention the serious stuff, but this movie has just so much physical comedy. Like the entire scene where Jim Carrey beats himself up in the bathroom. That's worth the price of admission
I
alone.
love Liar Liar. I think it is very funny. I think it does hold up quite well. And I think it's just like a perfect Jim Carrey vehicle for him. I think it's so funny. And so, yeah, good choice there. All right. Well, let's talk about our worst. And there are a lot of bad ones. There really are some.
You're
Ooh,
spoiled for choice in that.
yeah. Uh, but I think I got to go with Dumb and Dumber 2. I mean, they waited so long for this comedy sequel, and usually those are terrible, but it was just kind of unbelievable that they couldn't think of anything funny to do. And everything is just so cringeworthy between Harry and Lloyd. And there's way too much Rob Riggle in this movie for I don't know why he's a thing.
Definitely waited too long. By that time, Jim Carrey had done Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and a bunch of other serious roles. Like the shine was kind of off the apple in that regard. And Jeff Daniels was either finishing up or in the middle of doing The Newsroom and the viral clip of saying America's not the greatest country in the world anymore. And that whole thing was going around, and he was being Mr. Serious. And to see him go back to this super goofy role, it was like
Well, and just
what the heck are you doing?
Yeah, and the whole thing with Harry's daughter and Lloyd being kind of attracted to it, that was just weird. And
not to mention, and I don't use this word liberally because I just think it makes me cringe every time, but it's kind of problematic if you think about it.
It really is. It really is. If all these years, 20 years, you could come up with better than Lloyd being having the hots for Harry's daughter. Like, you couldn't think of anything else.
Definitely had some Son of the Mask vibes to it, which if you have never seen Son of the Mask, don't.
Yeah. All right, what's your worst?
So my worst is I think this may be a bit of a controversial one, but I'm not sure. I guess I'll just have to read the room. But it's The Grinch from How the Grinch Stole Christmas from director Ron Howard.
Yeah.
The Grinch short portrays the Grinch as just he's a guy who just genuinely just doesn't like Christmas. It doesn't have to be explained. He doesn't like it, and he just decides he's just going to take it all. And when he does, and he looks back and he sees, oh, they're celebrating Christmas without all the presents and the trees and all of that. Like Christmas means more to the Who's than just the material things. And his heart grows 3 sizes. Like they accomplish all of that story in 30 minutes, maybe 35.
Yeah.
In the Ron Howard version, they give him a tragic backstory and just, oh my God. And I don't mean to dump on Ron Howard. I feel like I've been doing that a lot, but minus the 2010s, Ron Howard is a genuinely really good director. Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, Rush from 2013. He's good at his job, but in this version, it was just so many choices. And not to mention the fact that Jim Carrey is just a caricature. He starts off by eating an onion and is okay, and he's I hate Christmas.
Yeah. So it's just a terrible idea to make a feature film off of these Seuss stories. They're too short. There's not enough in them. Even in an animated feature film, I don't think it works. I hated the Lorax, and I didn't like Grinch, and the animated Grinch. And here you have this one where everybody looks scary and bizarre, and it's not whimsical, it's not charming. It looks like a bunch of pig people, and you've got some really adult humor mixed in here with the Kristen Baranski character, and just some really weird stuff that doesn't fit. And the whole thing is just kind of, it looks like you want to take a a wipe to the screen so that you could
Yeah.
everything looks kind of dirty and unpleasant, and it's just it's one of my least favorites.
The,
Even
the
as a
Grinch
Christmas movie person.
the Grinch does a motorboat in one scene with Christine
Yeah,
Baranski's, you know,
yeah,
and
it's
it's just like, Doc,
bizarre.
this is surely what Dr. Seuss would have wanted, and it's like he's rolling in his grave so fast that like he could dig to
Yeah.
China. Like, what the hell?
That is our best and worst of Jim Carrey. Let us know what your best and worst are. Put in the comment section or on Twitter, and please share this video. We'd really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. And check out Rachel's reviews on iTunes as well for our podcast. You want to make sure you listen to the Hidden Gems podcast because we have a lot of fun. This week we're doing follow-ups on our recommendations, so that's always fun. And so, Ryan, where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. And then, of course, there's my YouTube channel, Ryan Cam's Movie Reviews. Scary Mania is run wild on the channel. We're recording this on a Monday, which means that my episode for Frankenstein has just dropped. And over the next couple days, because I'm going to be reviewing 31 horror movies in 31 days, I'm going to be covering The Mummy, The Mummy's Hand, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, and The Wolfman. And then I'm going to be covering several movies from the 1950s, both the B movies like Godzilla and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and the remakes of the Universal classics from Hammer Studios like Horror of Dracula and Curse of Frankenstein. So that's a lot of fun. And also, the AFI project is still going strong. I'm going to be covering Midnight Cowboy, A Streetcar Named Desire very soon. Also Intolerance and Lord of the Rings. So to put the period at the end of the sentence, if you haven't subscribed to me, now is as good a time as any because a lot of content is going to be coming your way.
Yes, make sure y'all have subscribed. It's really good stuff. And make sure you're checking out the Hallmarkies podcast. We're starting our Christmas season this week, which is crazy but awesome. So make sure to check out. We have an interview with Amy Winter, the executive vice president and head of programming for Lifetime Channel, which is really fun. And so check that out over at Hallmarkies podcast. And again, let us know your thoughts and about Mr. Jim Carrey, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.